Hey, my ladies, representing Liquid Sun Rays and Wings of Strength. I like it. Miss Mayla Ash, I just saw Marilyn and Victoria.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love Mama Sun Ray.
No, who
Mama
doesn't?
Ray.
Mama Ray, she's the best. And Miss Gina, you looking all festive with your Wings of Strength gear.
Hey, had to dress appropriately, right?
Where did I first see you? The Miss Wings International? Right?
You did, in the lobby of I was in the wrong hotel. So
Oh,
it was
that's
a fortuitous meeting.
I
I was
like
supposed
that.
to go there to meet you.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. Well, welcome back on, ladies. I hope you had a nice day. Maybe got some training in, pumped up some iron, doing your thing. I know you're in Dubai. What time is it there, Gina?
It's 10:30 p.m.
Oh, man. It's past my bedtime. And Mayla, you're what, an hour ahead of us in Phoenix, I think?
No, actually, it's 1:30 here. So
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
2 hours ahead, I want to
Yeah,
say.
2 hours.
Yeah, okay. Fine. So I want to talk again about some women topics here. Let's talk about competitors that don't want to cross over to women's bodybuilding, right? What do you think they're afraid of?
Well, I think actually it's more than just, there's women who don't want to cross over from figure to women's physique. And there's women who, especially women in women's physique, who don't want to cross over to women's bodybuilding. And I think, for me, I think a lot of it is twofold. Since I was also one of those individuals who was reluctant to cross over, from the perspective of looking at women's bodybuilding, sometimes you have it in your mind that you're not big enough. Oh, I'm going to look ridiculous if I get on the stage with these women. And so it took me actually crossing over and seeing myself backstage with other female bodybuilders to say, oh, okay, no, this is where I belong. This feels normal. But then I also think on the other side, it's women who have always had success in women's physique, and they got comfortable with their process of prepping for a show, that the idea of having to take that to the next level, sometimes, some people are just like, you know what, I've got my rhythm. I know that if I do this, which is what I've always done, I can place top 10. And, even though the point system is gone now, but, now it's just like, and if I play my cards right, hit the right shows, I could possibly go to the Olympia, but if I cross over, it's like starting over. And so I think that whole thing of the idea of starting over, trying to remake a name for yourself in the division, is a reluctance. Those two things, trying to put on that mass or that density that you need for women's bodybuilding. And also the possibility of you being top 10 in women's physique every time and maybe crossing over to women's bodybuilding. You're not going to, maybe this first year, that's not going to happen for you. And some people are just not, they chase that, the hardware, like we used to say in amateurs. You're chasing the hardware. You're just chasing the, that recognition instead of actually the improvements that you could possibly make. So at least that's my opinion.
Gina, what do you think?
I think it's mostly the natural progression of the sport. Invariably in training, we're adding more and more size year after year. If we're going to have a lengthy career, that eventually you're likely going to move up unless you really work your training to ensure that you don't add that in size. But I think something needs to be said for body type and how well it fits the division. I was destined to be a bodybuilder. I'm short, thick, and dense. I always had very dense, thick muscle. So for me to have stayed in women's physique, that wouldn't have made sense. Whereas there's, you take your classic ectomorph that is a slender build and has hard time building mass. They may never be able to bring that type of mass and density that bodybuilding requires and stay in women's physique, But I think, Mayla's probably right. There's probably a huge level of discomfort in knowing that you might be playing from the top of your game and, starting back over, but I think that's part of the essence of the sport, is always improving and growing. It's never about stagnation, right?
Mhm.
We're always looking to get better and improve. So, I would love to see more and more women cross from physique into bodybuilding, because obviously it enhances our sport. We get more and more competitive, more numbers and more ladies on stage, and invariably we're going to have more shows. So, the more the merrier.
Well, it's really sad to see the cancellation of the Puerto Rico Pro.
Yeah.
But there's
But
reasons.
I thought the whole show was canceled, though.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the whole show
Yeah,
was
the whole
canceled.
show. Yeah.
Isn't it being replaced? Oh, maybe it's not. I'm not going to put something out there that's not true.
No,
So
I
I
don't.
was
I don't think
wondering if
it's.
it was being replaced with another show, but maybe it's not.
I
So,
don't think
but it was
so.
unfortunate.
Yeah, it wasn't. It
So,
was, I like my Puerto Rico show. It's a very nice show and fun being in the Caribbean. But, we have other platforms to compete on. I have a little confession to make. Not a lot of people know this. So I was going to go into women's physique.
okay.
Well, for me, I'm a small girl. So when I get leaned down, it's like I'm 140, 145 usually. And, I'm right there in the middle. So I was like,
Mhm.
okay, do I go to women's physique? No, because in my heart, I'm a bodybuilder. So I stayed with
Right.
women's bodybuilding. I mean, there's just something about women's bodybuilding that I love very much. But it's unfortunate that some of these girls don't want to come over to our world because they're afraid of the size. They're also afraid that you're going to be looked at differently, which I don't understand the whole point of that. We're us female body, we're so not manly, but you know what I mean. So, whereas women's physique is more, what is it? The open hands with the biceps,
Right.
or just more.
Right.
Anyway, but
But you're
I
right.
wanted to ask you ladies something too. Do you feel that there's a lot of women's physique competitors that can easily come into women's bodybuilding? They're just too afraid.
There's definitely some, and I don't know if the reason's fear or not, if they're just comfortable in women's physique and they prefer that look, that style of posing. But there's definitely some that are. We look at them and say, they're huge. I'm like, wow, they've got incredible size. They need to be in bodybuilding. They would do
Exactly.
better.
I think some of it has to do with, I think you get you get a level of tunnel vision with your process. I know for me, I'm just like every year I was focusing on trying to bring a better package, based on, my division. Well, let me make these improvements and everything. And most of us, and I think all three of us can attest to this, when you are in this sport and you love the training, the lifting, you don't really pay attention to the whole, as Gina said, manipulating your training program so you can stay in the sport. We're just training and we're trying to become better. We're trying to, get those gains and recomp our body that you really don't pay. You're really not paying that much of attention. At least for me, that's what it was. It was just like, when the pandemic hit, I wasn't paying attention to anything.
Right.
I was just, training and waiting for a show to happen. But I think a lot of times is that you're so focused. They're so focused on getting ready for that next show or getting ready for that next season that they're really not paying attention to the fact that, no, you've actually just lifted yourself out of this division, and so they come into a show and it's that they bring the best package, and obviously somebody has to win a show. And I think that's usually where the problem comes in. Somebody has to win a show, and sometimes it's somebody who's technically should have crossed over or could cross over. They wind up winning a show. So then the mindset is that, oh, well, the dynamics have changed again. Women's physique is not holding. And so I think that now that we have all these divisions, and you do have the judges at these shows letting people know, hey, maybe it's time for you to maybe look over there.
Maybe
Hey,
look
did you
over
notice
there.
this other group over here?
Yeah.
You might want to go visit and say hi to them. I think last year what you were saying is true. There was tons of women. There was just like, why are you still trying to be in this division? And I think a lot of people have started crossing over that needed to cross over. There's still a handful that are still, hanging on. But I think this year we're going to see, a lot of women who, a lot of us were like looking at pictures like, or being at shows like, you need to cross over. Somebody needs to talk to you. I don't think we're going to see as many this year. But yeah, I think last year and coming into this year, it was a huge issue, but hopefully that they'll finally get to that point. But that leads me to the whole thing about the height. That's one of the things that breaks my heart is that there's a lot of women, like Gina was saying, who have a small frame, but because they're over 5'7", everybody's like, oh, well, you need to move to women's bodybuilding. And it's just like, this woman doesn't have enough muscle density, And the thing that I really love is that I've had women literally come up to me at the Olympia, at other shows, who are 2 to 3 inches taller than me. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to cross over because, me and you have the same muscle size. I'm sort of like, height and muscle density play a huge factor in this. You having the same muscle density that I have means that you're not big enough.
Right.
And
it's spread out like, 3 more inches.
So many people don't, they don't get that. And, I'll get a picture and somebody send a picture. Well, my sister should cross over because, she's about your size, and they keep telling her that she needs to come down in size, in this division. I'm like, she needs to lose a little fat, but she's 5'8". I'm 5'5". Her being my size, and I do the exact same. I always find somebody in this division, who's around their size, and I'll send them a picture. When you look like this on stage, I said, because this is what they'll be comparing you to when they start moving you around. When you get the muscle bellies that look like this, then you're ready to cross over and do well. I was like, but you don't put my picture next to your picture saying, oh, I'm ready, because that's not how it works. Mm-hmm. But, anyway, so that's my opinion.
Gina, what do you think?
As far as height and how that factors in, I don't think. I
mean, you're what, 5'10"? You're 5'10", right?
In my wildest dreams, no, I'm barely 5 foot tall. I think it's harder, obviously, for taller women. There's more length to fill out, right? I even get that it's easier for me to bench press because I don't have to push the weight as far. And I'm like, I'm still pressing the same weight. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't have to travel as far, which perhaps physics wise, it might actually have something to that. But, height, absolutely does not dictate whether or not you should be in the bodybuilding class versus, it might, if anything, kind of go the opposite way. You might fare better in figure because you have that long frame, that X frame, because you're so tall. I think Irene might be the tallest we have, maybe. Chelsea.
Chelsea's right up there. Irene, right up there. Yeah.
The women, there's actually a woman who,
Lisa Whitesell is up there.
Tina's actually pretty tall up there too, isn't she?
Tina
Williams.
Oh yeah, she is pretty tall. Yep.
Yeah. And there's a woman who at the Chicago Pro, she did Miss International. She's
the blonde-haired girl,
or something like that, huh?
The blonde-haired girl?
No. She's short. I'm like, there was another woman. She's like 5'10" or something like that. I'm just like, but yeah, I'm like Tina. I think of Tina and Irene and Monique. Really, really tall, filling out a lot of frame. So, but.
Hey,
anyway,
what can we do to make bodybuilding entertaining again? It's such a boring sport, don't you think? Or it can be.
People always ask how I got here. I was willing to work just a little harder than everyone else. Every damn day. If I can have hundreds of hours back, I'm gonna grab them. Spending hours prepping chicken, rice, and vegetables, F that. I rely on perfect nutrition. I rely on trifecta.
Well, I'm just like,
Boring. I mean, we obviously don't find it boring, but
Well, I mean, listen, I mean, we don't, but it is not the most exciting sport. It's not, you know, so we want to really
not like
engage.
watching golf.
No.
really? You went with, okay.
Golf.
We just, you know, golf or bowling, you know, it's like, woo, that's, you know, I'm like, I don't know. To make it
Gotcha.
more.
Stumped you.
Well, the thing is that I'm like, it's the way that the sport is designed. I'm just like, it's.
Well, I
to
guess
make it more-
promoting, right? Like you were saying earlier about promoting, you know, doing maybe some videos, putting yourself out there, you know, maybe what if we did like a WWE style, like Mayla signing for the Olympia versus Andrea Shaw. You know, Andrea comes in, it's like, you're not taking my title, you know, kind of deal. Just some entertainment value.
Right.
in
I'm
there.
just like, and that's the whole thing is that we would really have to make it into, yeah, some kind of like skit level kind of. Well, the thing is that I'm like, because the sport itself is a sport, you know, unlike wrestling and everything where it's a little more dramatic about what they do. I'm like, ours is more of an artistic aspect, but the excitement would be what we're doing, like at check-ins. You know how they do it boxing. You know, the whole check-in and you know like you said, doing this back and forth. And I think that Olympia TV is starting to do some of that stuff where they're having this, you know, matchup. You know, will this person keep their title? These are the top. Are they?
What if we
coming
brought
for
in
the title?
booty smacking? Booty slap?
Wait, what?
Let's bring in the booty slap, right?
With the 5 finger stingers.
Yeah, 5 fingers. Smack that ass, baby. Smack, smack, smackety, smack.
Yeah, you know what? That might work well with the men, but the issues that the women's division already have about some of our followers, I don't think we need to bring
Oh,
anything
yeah,
in
true.
where women on women are touching.
So speaking of followers and fans, so I was just in FIBO, and I had a guy who wanted to take a photo of me, and I'm like, sure, take a photo. We ended up taking like 10 photos. I don't know, it was like a photo shoot, right? you know how they are. And so then he reaches over to me and tries to give me a kiss on the lips. I'm like, whoa, I'm just dodging this guy. But I'm sure you girls have had similar where these guys just kind of like go a little bit over the top, right?
Oh,
Absolutely.
And it's amazing. It's just this whole thing of shooting your shot. You know, they come and it's just like.
Wait a
like,
minute. What's
okay,
shooting
so
your
because
shot? What does that mean?
Well, the thing is that, you know, this idea of just like, okay, you've always dreamed of meeting your favorite female bodybuilders and everything. And maybe at some point when you're at home looking at pictures, you've imagined some kind of, you know, you see them across the room and you click and all of a sudden you were everything that she wanted kind of fantasy.
God.
So this whole shoot your shot, you know, you finally meet him and it's just like, well, I'm going to try to hug, or maybe if I try to kiss, I just want to try to get some kind of contact. And it's just like, yeah. And I feel like because most of us, I feel we're thankful for our fans and we try to be polite and we try to be engaging and everything. And I feel like a lot of fans, I shouldn't say a lot, but there's a handful of fans that mistake that kindness for a consent, you know, like, yeah, sure, you can put your arm around me while we take this picture. No, you putting your arm on my waist does not mean that secretly I want you to take me in your arms. And
Right.
This is not the gateway to some kind of bad romance novel kind of thing, you know?
Romance novel.
I mean, there's always some bad ones or ones that take it too far, but I think in general, most of them are very respectful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are.
But there are the weird ones or the ones that are just maybe overly self-confident and try to kiss you. I've had them try to pick me up.
Oh,
I mean, of course, they want us to pick them up.
Right.
You know, but yeah, there's definitely some odd ones out there.
You know, if it wasn't for the fans, obviously I don't know where the sport of bodybuilding would be, women's bodybuilding. We do have some really great fans out there. And of course, we have those guys, which I have to ask you ladies this question. And it is, what do women bodybuilders look for in a guy? Do you like regular guys? Do you like muscular guys? What do you like? Because a lot of guys
So
want to know.
guys aren't regular.
Huh?
The muscular guys aren't regular.
I was like, can we define what regular is, as in what regular or psychotic, or regular as in
Regular, like a average Joe, blue collar, you know, just basic guy, never trained in his life, you know, maybe skinny, maybe a little bit thick.
Problem. So I mean, for me personally, fitness is front and center in my life and everything I do. So for me to be involved with someone that doesn't get that or doesn't share that on some level, it just doesn't work. You know, not that I have to be with a muscular guy, although I tend to prefer that. But if they're like, you know, video games and spend most of their time behind a computer and never see the sunlight or go to a gym, this is not going to happen.
Right. Mayla? Why are you
Okay,
laughing?
so for
We
me,
got to share that laugh. Come on.
Well, the thing is that I'm just like, there's a certain aspect that I'm in agreement with Gina, in the fact that, you know, fitness has always been a huge part of my life. And so somebody who can't respect that, that's always going to be a problem. This idea that they're always upset. Why are you always going to the gym? You know, it's just like, it's a part of my life. It's like breathing, you know, so somebody who respects that. But at the same time, what I find appealing is intelligence.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, so the thing is that I appreciate somebody who's fit. They don't have to be fit to my level. And I'm always quick to say that. I'm just like, the fitness level that I have is for me, you know, so I'm not trying to be involved with somebody who's trying to compete with that whole fitness level, you know. But if you're going to claim to be fit, then be fit. You know, there's some guys who they train their arms maybe one, you know, twice a week and everything. And oh, I'm a fit person, but they're walking around with a beer gut. And it's just like, look, you know, that's really not fit. And I don't need you being jealous or
maybe he's a power
or-
lifter. You know?
No, there's a difference between a power lifter and a gym rat who goes there to hang out with his friends and they just move. But the thing is that for me, I'm just like, it's somebody who can talk to me beyond fitness. You know, I'm just like, this idea of like, I don't find it appealing to engage somebody that all they want to talk about is protein powder and all they want to talk about is lifts. You know, there's so much more happening in this world. There's so much more to do.
Yeah.
You know, we always talk about balance. And so that's appealing to me. Somebody who, even though I look the way that I look, can talk to me more than how big are your biceps?
Thank you.
You know,
Amen.
And so that's the whole thing, is just like, you know, I'm kind of a geek myself. That's why I was laughing. You know, she was like, you know, sitting in front of a computer. I'm sitting like, as I'm sitting there thinking about how many times I posted about my Lego builds. Okay. And so that's the whole thing, is just like, you know, I'm kind of a nerd, I'm like a closet nerd. A lot of people look at me, they're just like, you're into sci-fi and Star Trek and Lego builds. I'm like, yeah, I listen to classical music also. I'm listening to classical music right now, you know?
Yeah.
So,
You know,
but
along the same lines, though, I wonder, do you guys, you know, run into the same problem? Is that I don't feel a lot of times that men appreciate me as a woman as opposed to just as a muscular woman.
And that's,
you know,
that's it. That's it.
And
I'm like,
I don't only want to hear about, oh, you have amazing biceps. Oh, your quads are so big and sexy. You know what? Tell me I have a pretty smile. Tell me I have beautiful eyes.
Yeah.
I'm a woman and I want to be appreciated as a woman. And I don't want the man that I'm with just to appreciate my muscle. They got to see past that.
and see, that's what I think when we talk about the problems that we have as women bodybuilders, that we have with fans at the shows or just fans online. It's not fans, in my opinion, it's not fans of the sport. It's fans of extremely muscular women. Men
Yes.
who are really attracted to extremely muscular women, obviously they're going to go to the shows because you got all that in one location.
Sure.
And so, but I'm like, Gina, I'm like, that's what it is for me. It's like, since crossing over and literally crossing over from women's physique to women's bodybuilding, just changing that identifier, changed the people that, started to engage me. But that's the whole thing, is just like, bodybuilding is what I do. It's not who I am. And if you don't want to take the time to understand and see the woman that I am, then it doesn't make a difference. You can chop my head off and put anybody's head on it, because all you're concerned about is the body. And that's what it
Right.
is. A lot of times you're fulfilling this fantasy and, of them being with a extremely muscular woman. And so I'm just like, you don't really care who the woman is, as long as she has all that mass.
Yeah.
And that's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody, like I said, who can see beyond that, who wants to talk beyond that, who, like Gina said, who thinks I'm pretty. Tell me I'm pretty. Tell me I look pretty in a sundress, and not because I've got bolder shoulders and big biceps. Just like, I look pretty. I look, you think this lipstick color looks great on me, So.
How about he make you a sandwich? He puts on the apron and makes you a sandwich, right? And let me ask you something. Does size matter? And I mean below the equator. Does size matter?
Below the equator.
I have to ask. Does it matter to me? Hell yes, it does. Whoa, baby. Anyway, sorry.
I think talent matters.
Talent matters.
Yes. I'm like, in my opinion, I'm like,
Okay,
well,
wait a minute. We're talking
hear
about the
me
same
out.
thing.
Hear me
Talent?
out. There are people who have size
No
and don't
talent.
know how to operate their machinery well.
Agreed. Yeah.
So all the size in the world doesn't mean anything if they can only make it operate for 30 seconds.
Are you feel me, baby? Yeah. Do you feel it? Do you feel it? Huh? I'm like, nah, I don't feel nothing.
Well, I'm like, the whole thing is just like, let's be honest. I'm just like, creativity is a glorious thing when it comes to two people becoming one. And so, if you're very talented, maybe size doesn't matter, as long as both of us can reach Mount Everest. Okay?
Mount Everest. I love it. That's a good way to put
You
it.
can take me to Mount Everest.
We're good.
But at the same time, yes, I'm just like,
Do you feel that for the most part, though, men in our sport, our fans, do respect us?
say that again. I'm sorry.
Do you feel, though, that the majority of the men who are fans of our sport respect us, give us the proper respect we deserve?
That's almost a hard question to answer, because I think the ones we hear from the most are the ones that don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think probably the vast majority do, but it's the ones that are disrespectful are the ones that are in your inbox asking vulgar questions. Because the respectful guy isn't going to do that, so we don't see it so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I would hate to think that I know that they're not all that way. I know it's a small percentage. Unfortunately, they're the loudest.
Right. I was going to say it. They're usually the loudest, but I think the men of the sport, and I think the men who are fans of our division in the sport, of the sport in general, do respect us. They do recognize that, we train hard. It's hard work. Some of them recognize that we don't get the recognition or the appreciation that we deserve. But like Gina said, it's just, they're not always in our inbox. You might see an occasional comment on a post, and maybe not one of our posts, maybe just a general post, talk about how thankful they are that the division is back, and, this is going to be a great year. You see that occasional, post of positivity or recognition or appreciation. But for every one of those, there's 10 who are sliding into the DM, or even on a comment underneath one of your pictures. Can I ask you a question? Oh my God, I had a fantasy about you.
You just did.
It's like, why?
How about the guys that give the same comment to like 10 other girls, the same response, like a copy and paste?
Yes, there's many of those.
How do you
I mean,
handle these guys, Mela?
Well, the thing is that I'm like, the reality is that the ones who give the same comment and do a copy and paste, usually they give the same comment every time they contact you. And so the reality is that at the beginning, I used to always think, you said that last week. What do you mean by that? I will, after a while, if they're posting the same thing over and over on every one of my every one of my pictures or something, then if I'm feeling good about myself, I'm like, hey, you said that on the last picture. What do you mean by that? Or I just ignore them altogether.
Right.
I'm just like, it's just because it's them just trying to, like I said, they're attracted to the muscle. So they say the same thing because it doesn't make a difference about the woman. It doesn't make a difference about the woman. It's only about the muscle. So whichever muscular physique has a voice that responds back to them. It's a numbers game. Eventually, somebody's going to say something to them and make their day. Eventually, somebody's going to appreciate them. Eventually.
Right.
Right. And so they just it's a numbers game for them. And so I've learned over the past couple of years to not take offense anymore and just to let it go.
Gina, what's it like in Dubai with the women? Are we accepted over there, women bodybuilding? Now, I was in Dubai in October. I didn't get really a chance to go around and stuff, but how is women bodybuilding over there? Is it more accepted?
So it's not very prevalent. I'm like probably one of, I think, 2, 3 bodybuilders, our division at the gym I train at, and it's a huge bodybuilding gym.
Where do you train at Venus? Venus?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Venus.
Venus.
And of course, there's figure, there's bikini, there's wellness. So I think it's open to growth here. I think it's becoming more and more of a mecca. I just don't think we've made the transition over yet. But in general, though, I find that as much as people like to think that women are repressed or not appreciated in Islamic cultures, we as muscular women are very respected here. I don't get weird stares or sideways looks. I get, oh wow, you female bodybuilder. They want to talk to you, they want to engage, they want a picture. Hey, can you flex with me? Can I touch? They ask.
Wow.
So I find that actually very refreshing.
Here they don't ask, they just touch.
They don't. They assume that they can just touch.
They touch every place too.
I got a bubble. So I do like that here. On the competitive side of things, the shows don't really feature women divisions.
I'm gonna share something real quick. They're actually thinking about bringing some women divisions. I think this year or next year. They're talking about it.
I would love to see that.
Yep.
Right now, it's most. I think we have one IFBB show here, Dubai Pro.
Yes.
The other 2 shows, they're IFBB Elite, which only has, I think, figure and women's fitness, I think it's called. Or not even figure, women's fitness and bikini. So we need wings of strength. we need a show here.
That'll be an expensive show, I'll tell you.
Well,
but
I think we need
There's money there.
I think we need more than Wings of Strength. I think that Wings of Strength has championed a lot for our division.
Yeah.
But the reality is that we need some of these other entities to champion for us.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I think it's important that some of these promoters can get together.
I wish.
And champion something.
Right.
I'm like, this idea, we can't. I'm thankful for what the Wings of Strength was able to accomplish for women's bodybuilding. But
sure, of course,
sport is international. And to think that they're supposed to do it globally with no help from anyone is eventually I'm like, it's going to tap them out.
Right.
You know, I'm like, and the thing is that we need not only like we talk about the promoters and everything, we need other people, we need other entities. You know, if they appreciate us, then show us. You know, but at the same time, if they do it, then we have to go. We have to come. We have to
Well,
stand
see,
up. We have to
that's the
be there.
problem is some of these girls have the opportunity, like last year and the year before that, nobody showed up. Nobody was coming. You know?
Yeah, that is true. I'm like, that is true. I'm just, but at the same time, I'm like, we also went through that experience because of the pandemic,
Yeah.
with shows moving around so much. I'm like, how often did the shows move from one time period of the year to the other time period of the year? And, you know, people, I think some of that, I feel some of that played into that a little bit.
Sure.
It's just like new shows were coming in, and then shows that had our division didn't have our division, or they had our division, but it was at a different time period. And so all of a sudden it was just like, you know, you start your prep with this mindset, oh, I'm planning on getting on stage, or at least for me, I'm planning on getting on stage around this time of the
Sure.
year, you know, around this month. And I know that this show is around this time. But if that show moves and the only other shows that are available don't have your division, now all of a sudden you're either trying to rush to get into a show that maybe might be earlier, or you're trying to hang on, trying to stretch something out, which ultimately has an impact on our division, trying to hang on or trying to extend a prep to make it to a show. And so I think some of that plays, you know, a part in it, you know, but anyway, but I think that Wings of Strength needs to champion more for others to start working with them.
Sure.
You know, it can't be just Wings of Strength. We need people who are willing to fight the good fight. But at the same time, if they're going to fight the good fight, then we need to make sure that we show up and we show out. We can't just show up. We have to show out. You know, we have to bring like they did at Vancouver. You know, we can't just show. We have to show out. We have to come and bring it. That the people that come to that show, they're just like, oh my goodness, that was phenomenal.
Well, Corey, again, you know, with that show, he reached out to, I don't know, 200 plus women. Making private videos, you know, inviting them over to the show, which was very nice as a promoter.
Yes.
You know, but Gina, I want to ask you a question. I know you're all about the athlete's health. Do you feel that it's better to have the shows closer together, or do you feel that there should be some space apart to give them, you know, a little bit of time to regroup and stuff? If they did a couple shows a year.
I think it's better health-wise if they're relatively close together. I think stretching out a long season becomes really taxing health, especially when we start looking at supplementation and managing that with long stretches in between. So I think if you can, you know, within a few weeks of each other, I think is much more feasible than within a few months. You know, it almost has to go then to that longer stretch of time where you can actually kind of take an off season, a very brief one, and then go into a prep again. But trying to maintain conditioning for an extended period of time, at some point your body's just like, I'm done. You know, no matter what you do, it's just like, okay, you can try, but I'm checking out. You know,
so Gina, when you talk about that going into that off season and you're talking about a couple of weeks, what's for those who are listening, what does that mean to you? Because some people, they think a couple of weeks, you know, is maybe 2 or 3 weeks, or an off season is maybe, you know, oh, an off season is like 12 months. I mean, 12 weeks or 14 weeks. So if you're coming from show to show, how long would you say would be a comfortable? And this is just your perspective. How long would you say between shows, if you're saying they're close together? What would be the max between shows? And then what would be an ideal rest period? So we won't call it the off season, but a rest period between.
Sure. So if it's not going to be, you know, sandwiched together within a few weeks, I think what, you know, a time frame that makes a lot of sense is 3 to 4 months. So where you can post-show come off everything, let your body normal, let receptors, you know, reopen, keep things in check. Okay, we can't go crazy. We can't binge post-show because, hey, we're going to get on stage. And I want to be able to now take my prep, fairly shorter time frame, right? So Maybe if I come off for 6 to 8 weeks and I keep everything in check, I can now take 8 weeks to 10 as opposed to the 16 or 18 or 20 weeks it ordinarily takes to prep, and tighten it right back up. Gave my body a break and gave my mind a break, right? And now I can bring a good, clean, rested package back to the stage instead of this we've seen the athletes whose bodies just literally look tired by the end of the season, right? So I think, 3 to 4 months is a good time frame. So it almost makes those early shows a lot of sense if you're looking to, get to the Olympia, to where you can actually take a good rest break in there and bring a really great package to the Olympia with improvements as well, right?
How many competitors would you like to see in the Olympia for women's bodybuilding? What's the number you'd like to see? 20 at least?
At least.
Mela?
I think 20 at the most.
At the most.
Because I'm going to be honest with you. For me, the Olympia should be, when I think of the Olympia, I think of the best of the best in the world.
Right.
And when we get to a point that we're getting up past 20 or something like, then it's kind of hard to just like, okay, really? So we got.
So the Arnold had 10 people. You saw that. So would you say
I think, no, 10 is just, I'm like around like 14 to 20.
Okay.
10 is a little, 10 is just a little, maybe for an invite, but I think, I'm like, I like the idea of 14 to about 20.
Okay.
For the Olympia or something like that. For actually, even for the invites, I'm like, because it's enough that you get a couple of dark horses, that, maybe there's a possibility of something like that. And you might get some new faces and some new names and stuff like that. But it's just enough to make it interesting. It's just enough to make it interesting. When you start getting past that number, it just, to me, I feel like it waters down the prestige.
I don't think you get enough of attention too. I don't think you're going to get enough stage time with a big number.
But it's like it's supposed to be really an elite, a prestigious thing, and the idea that it's supposed to be the best of the world. Like that's the thing that for me, for men's physique and bikini and everything, when you get to the Olympia and you got 40 people, it's just like, even if you had a bunch of shows, it's just like, really? 40? I'm just like, to me, I think it's just a little too much.
Look at what there's 8 qualifiers, and we have 3 that qualify, Hella, Angie, and Andrea, right? So what we're looking at 11 women making it to the Olympia this year.
Right.
That's it, right? Okay, somebody gets sick, somebody has an injury. Now we're down to 10.
Yep.
Maybe 9. It's the Olympia. We shouldn't see 9 or 10 athletes on the stage in women's bodybuilding.
Yeah, but I honestly thought that was the whole concept that was the whole purpose of the concept of the special invite. Just like what they did with the Rising Phoenix, when we had people who wind up getting sick and they wind up not being able to attend the Rising Phoenix. They did a special invite to individuals who had won their specific show in it. That's how Leah got invited to her first Rising Phoenix.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean. Is just like, if we're talking about doing more than 20 because somebody might get sick, then we back at this point of just having such a huge amount of people. But I'm talking about the Olympia as a whole, not just the women's division. So I'm not just like women's bodybuilding. I just think across the board, there should be just a finite amount of people that should be hitting the stage for each division, so that it does have that, it still has enough to be exciting.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. #1 worldwide since 1987 and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
It still has enough to be challenging. It still has enough to it could be anybody's game kind of thing. But it's not so extensive that you start losing interest because it's going on and on and on. So, but
I
anyway,
agree. I think there's some divisions that have far too many athletes. You know, men's physique.
Men's
I
physique,
think
yeah.
it's close to 60. You know, in some of the divisions. You know, and I understand the logic behind doing away with the point system, but I wonder if perhaps it needed to be more selective as to which divisions should still have points. You know, if you have less qualifiers, perhaps those divisions with less qualifiers still should have points. And if you have some divisions that have 60 qualifiers and 60 athletes qualifying, I think Jake said last year, or Dan, it's the most athletes they ever had at the Olympia, right? So maybe if there's 60 shows that these guys can qualify at, and really 30 should be at the shows at the most, maybe they have to win two.
I think that there should be a bump system, honestly. Let's say Mayla's already qualified for the Olympia, and she does, well, you know, let's say she's qualified, she does another show, Tampa Pro. And let's say you, Gina, are competing, you know, you're right there, you and Mayla, neck and neck. Mayla wins. Well, now you just got screwed out of a Olympia invite. So if there was a bump system, it's going to go next in line, which would be you. And if you're already qualified, it goes down to the next person, usually the top three. I wish they can bring this back. You know, I don't.
something like that.
Again, I think that works for the divisions that have less athletes, or less spots available. But if they do that with the divisions that already have 60 qualifying, now you're going to have 70.
And I get that.
I think it has to be a situation that there needs to be like a clause. Just like I don't believe that we should give out, and there's no disrespect, and I'm saying this because we had the situation last year where we had at the Vancouver, one competitor wasn't competing. You can't compete against yourself.
No.
But you win an Olympia qualification. I feel like just like on the amateur level, if there's not enough competitors, then that pro card isn't given out. And I feel like the same thing should happen with this. But on this aspect is like what you're saying, Gina. If you've got 60 shows or whatever, then no, that clause doesn't come into play. The bump system doesn't come into play because there's enough opportunities for you to make that show. But when you have a situation like women's bodybuilding, where over here we only have 4 and there's only 6, you know, internationally wise, then yes, the bump system comes into play. You know, the special invite and the bump system both should come into play so that we can reach a number that still makes it exciting, but keeps it competitive and interesting, but not overextended.
So let me ask you, this is something off topic, and Mayla, you kind of jotted this in my head. Besides Chelsea Dion, who, you know, won her pro card recently and competed, who else can you think of that's won a pro card and has competed recently?
Okay, you mean as
like in the last 2 years? In the last 2 years, yeah, just went ahead and competed.
Without taking in,
nobody, right? Anybody come to mind?
Angie.
The only not on the bodybuilding level. The only person I could think of that comes is, and it's because I'm going by a handle. I wouldn't try to bring it up. The real Lois Lane.
Yep. Her
Rachel
Daniels.
Rachel.
Daniels.
I'm like, literally, she won a pro card, and the next week she did New York.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, and then it qualified for the Olympia. I'm just like, but I'm like, you don't really. I can't.
Here's why I bring this up. So I want to ask both of you this important question. This has been on my mind. Actually, 2 questions. First of all, number 1, do you like the second place pro card? Do you believe that there should be a second place pro card? Are you in favor of that?
Women's physique.
I don't care what division it is. If there's a second place pro card.
Because women's bodybuilding is first only. No, I think you should have to win your class.
Mayla?
I thought at Team Universe, it's a bump system for all the divisions.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think when a division first starts, it makes sense because you're trying to. So when wellness started, It made sense. But I think that it should be like a 2-year limit at most. And then it should be eliminated, because this idea that we're doing it, because for me, what the problem is that you have individuals who are running the gambit. They're doing open and they're doing every class in the hopes that if I do enough classes, that somebody's going to get bumped. I'm going to win it, because eventually I'm going to, if I don't win it, there's a higher probability of me getting the bump card.
Sure.
And so we have a situation where, like you said, we have people, in my opinion, that maybe shouldn't have earned their pro cards.
Well,
but because of that bump system, and because you can get it through all of these divisions, and I'm not saying that somebody who gets it in another, I shouldn't say another division, another class. Another class. I'm like, that it shouldn't be earned, but it should be the best.
Okay, so let me throw this in. Let me throw this in here. So, are you a pro? Like let's say you win your pro card at USA's, Nationals, Universe, North American. Are you a pro right there and then? Are you a pro until you compete? Because here's what happens. We have people who win their pro card, and as we all know, they don't compete. I think there should be a clause that if you have maybe a year or 2 years that you have to compete in a pro show. Otherwise, you're not a pro. I think this is something that should be done to get more people to compete, because some of these people who have won, again, if we go into men's open bodybuilding, who've won nationals, USA's, North American. Have we seen some of these guys? I mean, thank God, we have Carlos Thomas, who's making his debut at New York Pro. I think he won the Nationals a few years ago. He's making his pro debut in New York, which will be exciting because he's got a great package. But I wanted to ask you guys, I mean, do you think that you're a pro once you win your pro card, or does it make you a pro when you compete as a pro?
I mean, once you earn it.
Once you earn it.
I think you're pro once you get that card, but I think
you haven't competed as a pro yet, so you don't even know what you're like on stage.
Professional athlete, no, but you're pro qualified, right? I mean, and I think for a lot of people, probably something like 98%. I would love to actually know a number on that. I think that might be their goal. That's it. Yeah. They get the pro, they're done. I think such a small percentage of us win the pro card with the intention of going on and actually being a pro athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the masters divisions. I mean, until now, there really wasn't even anywhere for them to compete. Mm-hmm. You're going out pro cards to people over 55, 60, 70, where they weren't going to compete and be competitive in open classes, right? So, Gary Udit's done a great job. We've got Masters World Championships now, and it's giving these older athletes a venue, and now, Tim Gardner's bringing on so many of the master classes too, which I hope eventually will bolster.
Yes, but the problem is, Gina, we're bringing in these masters competitors, and I agree with you. I am a fair person. I want to give everybody a platform. The one thing that's great about the IFBB Pro League, NBC Worldwide, is we give everyone has a chance. There's something for everybody. But the problem is, what about our younger people, coming into nationals, USAs? You can't rely on the masters. There's so much of an age limit there, right? I mean, what's the prime number for women's bodybuilding? 35, 40? At their peak?
30, right?
Mayla, what did you think it is?
Yeah, I think the prime is just like
How do we draw younger girls into our division, or we just keep pulling them from women's physique?
Well, here's the thing, but let's be honest. I'm like, it's the same thing like with the men's division. Our division is the most muscle dense division.
Takes time.
Unless they're starting when they're like 12 or 13, that's going to take time.
Yeah.
And so, and the thing is that I meet a lot of women that they're just like the littlest of things. I'm like, a perfect example is Tracy. I'm just like, she lives in Florida right now. And she was the littlest thing, but she was like, I always wanted to be a female bodybuilder, but she knew she had to put on size. Right. And so this idea is that, that's why I'm a big advocate of people. I was like, fine, if you want to be a female bodybuilder and you want to get on stage, grow into the division. Get into whatever division your body is currently ready for, and keep lifting, keep training, keep building the muscle, and grow through the divisions. Because this idea that we have people who they want to become female bodybuilders and they're just starting out, they just started getting into the gym for maybe 2 years. They don't have that muscle maturity. They don't have that muscle density. But then they get on stage, and it's like what you said. Then what causes, especially for our division, they get on stage, they get into a small show because there's not a lot of amateur female bodybuilders. So they win a show, they become nationally qualified. They go to a national show, they win their pro card from the bump program. And then all of a sudden they're jumping on a pro level stage, and they're no place close to being ready because they don't have that density. They don't have that muscle maturity. They don't have the conditioning, you know? And so this idea, I don't think there's a way for us to truly pull from the young and bring them in because of that muscle maturity. It's different for women than it is for men. You start training a little bit. For me, I'm like, when I was in track and field, one of the things in my family, the women have hips. I don't have hips because I started training with weights at a young age. You know, I'm just like, so a lot of that plays into, it plays into everything.
And I get that, but I bring it up because if we look at USA's and nationals, which are two of the biggest, you know, pro qualifiers, there's not anybody there for women's bodybuilding, really. You know, I mean, we really don't have any great competitors. So
well, just like, but I think it's because of the fact that we lost the division so long ago that not too many women were into it. And then when women's physique came, that's where they started going. And so if they're coming back, that's the good thing, is that they're coming back, you know, but it's going to take time.
All right.
It's going to take time to rebuild the division. And that's just my opinion. I feel like it's just going to take time. There are women out there, and especially because of what we're bringing to the stage. We won't talk about what happened last year. I'm like, last year, in my opinion, was just a fluke kind of a season when it comes to women's bodybuilding. But the type of quality packages that are coming to the stage, and the fact that we are engaging people, and like with your show and other shows, I'm just like, with us and letting people understand that just because you are the biggest, just because you've eaten the most, I'm like, you can't get on stage just full and think that you're a woman's bodybuilder. It's more than just size. Or we tell people it's more than you just coming in shredded to the bone. There are different components. You need to bring all of this together. And we're slowly starting to see that. I'm like, if you look at last year compared to like years before, we're slowly starting to see people bringing that complete women's bodybuilding on an amateur level, but it's still the complete package.
Well, listen, when I saw Angela Yo come on the scene, I was blown away by this girl.
Right.
You know.
And so it's happening. It's just that it's going to take time, because if we really want the quality, that made our division great when we first, we've got to give them time to mature and bring the packages. So
I think it's just a matter of time. It's just, we can't expect young athletes to have what it takes to be women's bodybuilders.
Yeah, but you know what though? Listen, I started out in the amateurs, obviously, and I worked my way up, and I didn't have muscle maturity, but we had so many people competing and coming in. Now it's...
But when you started, how many divisions were there?
That's what I was just going to say. How many
we didn't have women's physique. We had women's bodybuilding and figure and fitness, men's bodybuilding.
So
I get it. I get what you're saying.
It's getting more and more diluted.
So do we pull the women's physique girls from the national level onto women's bodybuilding? You know?
I don't think we should pull.
I mean, that's happening to a degree. Chelsea pro-carded as women's physique, and I think Marge was the one that said, you need to be in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
You know, Angie, I'm thinking, wasn't bodybuilding either. I think
she was physique, and then she went into women's bodybuilding, competed as a women's bodybuilder.
But she won, I was there when she won her card at nationals, but as physique, you know. So, and I think there's somewhat of an allure to compete as an amateur in women's physique because, again, first and second pro card, whereas women's bodybuilding, first and in some cases overall is the only thing that gets pro card. So
Depending on
quite
your
frankly,
physique.
it's
Yeah.
easier in physique.
Well, I think this is a great topic to discuss again in the future for women's bodybuilding, just because it's interesting. But I'm going to leave it with this because we are out of time. As much as I can talk forever, I'm going to ask you both a question. Bodybuilding obviously is not dead, right? Female bodybuilding is not dead. We are growing stronger than ever every year. And I want to thank, Jake Wood, Wings to Strength, and all the people who do support us. The Pro League, Mr. Jim Mannion, the president, Tyler Mannion, and all those over there. But I just want to ask you guys, so is female bodybuilding, we're not going anywhere, are we?
And we're here to stay. I'm like, we're
Here to
not
stay.
dead. We're not
Okay.
dead.
All right. Gina? We
We're
going
here to
anywhere?
stay.
We're here to stay.
We're growing. Division's going to continue to grow. We're getting better and better quality athletes. And yeah.
I'm going to
It's
leave it
not
with
going
this. You know what I want to see at the Olympia this year? I'm going to put the pressure on. I would like to see a women's people's champ. So you have the guy, the men's people champ. Let's get a women's people champ,
That's awesome.
right?
I think it's a
The
good
big
idea.
wrestling belt for us.
Right?
You
That
know?
would be cool.
It
That
would be cool. It would. All right, ladies, thank you so much for being on the Fit Rockstar Show. The beautiful Mayla
Thank you.
Ash, the sensational and beautiful Gina Cavallero. Did I say it right? I didn't say it
Almost.
right. Almost.
It was good enough.
Anyway, love you guys. Thank you again for being on, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Talk to
you.
you guys soon.
Bye.